Okay, ready? Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, May 18th, 2020, 7 p.m. Heidrich. Aye. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Hatke.
Here.
Pettit. Here. Scornia.
Yes.
Sellentrep.
Here.
Wessels.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the regular meeting dated May 4th, 2020? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Obermark?
Aye.
Hatke?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Sellentrep?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Having read the minutes, are there any comments or questions? Any corrections?
Make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sellentrep, seconded by Heidrich, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated May 4, 2020. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. On the consent agenda, you have the Collector's Report Summary, January 2020, the Investment Report Summary, January 2020, a final pay request for Lamke Trenching and Excavating for the Meadowlark, Duncan, and Old Highway 100 overlay, and a liquor license application and his renewal for a Front Street Restaurant doing business as 514 at 514 West Front Street.
Okay, are there any questions or comments about any of these items?
Make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Sellentrep, to approve the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the items. Thank you.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. You have police department reappointments.
There must be something about this month that we have lots of appointments this month.
Already got promoted this month.
Yes.
A long time ago. So, evening
Okay.
council, I have for reappointment several of our command staff. I have Captain Jim Armstrong, Sergeant Joe Kaputska, Sergeant Joseph Rinkemeyer, Detective Sergeant Steve Seitz, and Lieutenant Daryl Balladeer. We all work together, as all officers do, as a team, and they are instrumental in helping me accomplish our goal of protecting and serving our community, and I'm proud to have them all, and the citizens should be proud of them. Then we also have a new officer, Ben Cassett. This is his second 6-month reappointment, so this will carry him to his first year with us. He's a brand new officer, and I don't think he quite thought that COVID-19 would be part of his police duty. But
Give him the heads up.
it's something that's experience for him for his first year. So I would request that you approve all the reappointments, please.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Heidrich, to approve the reappointments of Captain Jim Armstrong, Sergeant Joe Kapuska, Sergeant Joe Rinkemeyer, Detective Sergeant Steve Seitz, and Lieutenant Daryl Balladeer. All of those would be for a 1-year term. And then Ben Cassett, Patrol Officer, and that would be for his second 6-month term. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the appointments and reappointments. Thank you.
Public hearings, a request to postpone the rezoning of 600 Front Street from C2 General Commercial to C3 Downtown Commercial.
I'll let you know that put a letter in your packet. The applicant has requested to postpone this as of right now until June 15th at that council meeting. However, we do plan to sit down with them and maybe explore some other solutions. So,
Is he looking to make changes or just couldn't be here tonight?
no, so it got denied at planning and zoning, 6-1. The main reasoning for the request to rezoning is because in C3 we do not require off-street parking. There's no parking requirements, and if they would like to add a pavilion or a permanent tent, which would require them to add significant amount of parking, which in our opinion impacted the neighborhood. So they did have some ideas for parking solutions, but we told them we'd rather talk about that internally and not tie that to a rezoning.
They reached out, requested a meeting with staff, and I threw out suggested times this week that we were available. I have yet to hear back from them.
So we need to have a motion to go ahead and postpone this item.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Holtmeyer to postpone the rezoning of 600 West Front Street, or the hearing, to postpone the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you agreed with the postponement. All right, thank you.
Citizens' comments.
Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? If so, then please come forward and give us your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Kathy Haddox. I live at
Can you
805.
pull the microphone down? Oh,
My name is Kathy Haddox. I live at 805 Ron Avenue in Washington.
okay.
So lifelong resident, except for when my husband was in the service. And I want to thank you all for your service to our city, because I know elected positions are not always thanked positions. My request for you today is that you consider a high dive platform or a springboard for the new swimming pool. I understand that it's an insurance issue, but I know that St. Charles Recplex has one, so I know that it's doable in our area. Somebody's paying for it there. I'm not requesting a 33 or a 25 foot, but a 5 meter, which is about 16 feet, platform dive, and a 3 meter springboard. They require the same depth of a dive well, which is 12.5 feet. On the drawings that I saw of the plan, you have a 1 meter board, and that requires an 11.5 foot deep well. So it's only a foot deeper than what you're already digging. The other question I had for you was, well, actually it was a suggestion. There's so many very cool things in that plan for children, but not a lot for adults. And you could probably accommodate that lap swimming if you take that where the dive well is and make it.
And I don't mean to cut you off, Kathy, at all.
Sure.
Well, we are going to present the thing that is on the agenda.
Okay.
So if you want to wait maybe and keep some of those comments, and then we can go ahead and that way everybody
After
knows
that?
what we're talking about when we've got it up on the board.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
I mean, I didn't want to cut
No problem. I just have one other thing. It's in regard to the new playground. It's very cool also. I love what our Parks Department is doing, but I don't know if this is in the plan, but it needs a net. I sat out there for 7 years watching Legion baseball games with my son, and then probably 4 years watching my then boyfriend before that. And it is right in foul ball territory. So any
We
kids,
discussed that thoroughly too.
cool. Anyway, so that's
Okay.
what I have for you. Anything else? No.
So many of our council members haven't seen the pool presentation. I mean, they've seen drawings of it. It was in the paper and everything, but they've not really seen the presentation on it. So, okay. All right.
Anyone else?
Is there anyone else who would like to address the council?
Report of department heads, municipal pool replacement and renovations.
We've got our team back here that's going to come up. We're going to walk through and discuss the presentations. As you see in the packet, Wayne has given you a letter. The committee, the Aquatics Committee, has reviewed this and approved it. As you all know, they've been there's a group. Some were part of the Capital Improvement Sales Tax Committee. Others were part of. We just knew that they had interest in the pool. Some of them, and a lot of Parks Board members were also on that. And I think Jeff was a council member. Greg, were you on? Yeah, and Greg was on there as well. So we went through a series, and these guys will tell you kind of how they got there. One thing I do want to point out, though, that Greg may or may not was going to go ahead and touch on, that when we were going through this, we did have a survey that was put out. And we did that work through a previous contract that we had with Councilman Hunsaker. And they went ahead and put out, and we had a tremendous response. We had, I think, 1,300 responses back on this survey. And so this kind of answers part of your question, Kathy, that you had brought up. There was several features that we discussed. What's important? What do we want to have in a pool? What are the things that the community really wants? And I'll let those guys talk upon what they had. But there were a couple of things that they didn't have. So when we went through this RFQ process, there was low meter diving, or the low dives, whatever you want to call them, and among a group of other things. But then there was other things that were kind of taken out because it wasn't as important based upon the surveys. The high dive being one, and then also the lazy river. We have one obviously now at the pool, but that was something that we decided to go ahead and take out. It just wasn't stressed enough within the surveys that we got back. So we felt like we had a great idea of what the surveys wanted, and so when we sat down and went through this process, and these guys will describe how that process worked. So that's a little bit of an answer, but you can get more in a little bit. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg Kudron, who's with Landmark. Greg and Andrea are part of our owner's rep team that have kind of walked us through this design build process and got us to this point. And so Greg will kind of give you a little bit of a history of how we got here.
Yeah, thank you, Darren, members of the City Council, Mayor. I'll kind of pick in and dovetail into what you were talking about, Darren. And we did go through an RFQ referring to request for qualifications, which was put out there publicly, so we could get and solicit the city qualifications for design build teams. I should back up. The city decided to go with the design build approach versus the traditional hire an architect, design it, then put it out for bids and bid it, the contractors, and then build it. So design build allows it to be under one umbrella, saves time on schedule, which in this case is a benefit, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit as we go through the slides. And the other thing is it allows design and cost to kind of parallel as we go. So you don't get to a situation where you designed it, you have estimates, and then you bid it and find out it's over budget. Now you regroup. So this sort of allows the whole process to be managed as you go through it. So having said that, after we had RFQs, I think we had about 25, maybe 30 people download the information from the website. A lot of those actually teamed up with the three proposals that designs you'll see tonight. So we had a lot of collaboration between the community in terms of designers. With that, then we issued 3 requests for proposals, 3 RFPs, and that's the 3 that you'll see tonight. And then those were, well, I should back up a second. Back to your point, Darren. The community surveys, that was put into the RFP after it was prioritized and put together in terms of what would be the most important. That can be done within the budget, because that was always part of the factor. We'd love to do everything, but quite frankly, you still have to do it within the budget. So in addition to that, the community surveys, then there was input from the aquatics facility, and I know Wayne was a champion on leading a lot of that, and that was also put into the RFP. And I think Parks and Recs also had some input as well. So there are multiple levels, multiple input throughout the whole process. And then having that as we go through, we also had, as the 3 respondents to the RFP were developing early designs, because part of the criteria is to get preliminary designs, which you will see tonight. It's part of the process. And we had 2 early on meetings, meeting the city administration, and this was to kind of get dialogue between the city and the 3 design build teams to make sure that things were tracking, so someone wasn't skewing way off, so that they were, tracking within what our goal was. Mm-hmm. So with that, we then received the RFPs on April 24th, and then they were evaluated. There's point systems defined within the request for proposal. That was evaluated by the city, then a recommendation made, and then followed with the Aquatics Committee, and then the Parks and Recreation Committee. So it was sort of a cumulative thing, which brings us to where we are here tonight. So unless there's any questions, I am going to turn it over to Wayne and Andrea from Cochran Engineering, who has also teamed up with Landmark to go through what you see up in front of you.
Brief little history.
So how we got to this point, back in January of 2019, when I first started, the city had already, my predecessor had already gone out and secured a survey team to do this survey. And so they did the survey over a course of, I think, 2 or 3 months. I think it was wrapped up by the end of February, I believe, and then, or sometime in February. And then I think it was March 1st, 2019, we received the results of the third survey. And we had, I believe it was 1,400 responses, which they said was phenomenal for a pool survey like this. And the guy was really kind of surprised, actually. So we took that data on March 1st, I believe it was. We had a meeting with the parks, with the Aquatics Facility Group Committee, I should say. Went over their findings, and then we used that information then to, when we started meeting with Landmark and Cochrane, and then when we started working with the firms. And so in the process, this pool process, I referred, and Darren can vouch for this, a lot to that survey. These firms would ask, well, what are you looking for? What do you think? And I thought, well, if you look at the survey, the public says this. And so kept referring to that. So it was a useful tool and money well spent. And so now we're to the point where we had 3 firms submit projects, and then the administration staff, which consisted of myself, Darren Lamb, John Nilgis, and Kevin Creedy, along with Greg. We all looked at the proposals and made our recommendation, which was Westport. Then we went on to the Aquatics Facility Committee, showed them the proposals, and informed them of our recommendation. They had the same recommendation, Westport's plan. And then we took it to Park Board, same process. And then they recommended Westport's plan. So here we are tonight, and I'm here to recommend that plan, but we're going to show you all 3 of them here pretty quickly.
This is just the schedule that Greg and Wayne were talking about. And mostly the things I wanted to focus on here is this schedule was set early on in February, and through all this, I think you guys should be proud the schedule didn't slip. We kept going, and we're able to meet all of our target dates. So this is the 18th of May right here that we're presenting. So with the hopes that the City Council would execute an ordinance in June, then we'll have this summer and the rest of 2020, and then the beginning part of 2021 to open on May 29th. So these are the 3 teams that we received responses from: Capri Pools team, a Brock Miller team, and then the Westport team. In each of these slides, you'll see at the top whether or not they were able to stay within the budget that was specified at the very beginning when we issued the RFPs to them. So the Capri Pools team had a great design, but they were out of budget. Their team consisted of Capri Pools, Councilman and Hunsaker, Washington Engineering, and then Contegra, which Contegra and Capri are a partner company. So Contegra was the contractor. This is their proposed schedule. So they would start construction July 1st of this year, and then they were aiming to be finished April 30th of next year. And that was a substantial completion date. So that would give you about a month to button everything up before you opened in May. So this was the design that they submitted, and the drawings on the sides here are other supplemental drawings that they presented to us to support the design that they showed. So I'm going to walk through the site, similar with every design, and just kind of take it from the entrance through the entire park. So this project, you would still be parking in the existing parking lot, and then this sidewalk here would be ADA compliant ramp that you would walk down. This would be a new entry building. So over here, where this would be where the existing leisure pool is now, they were proposing a 2,000 square foot splash pad. This would be fenced separately. There was a grade change here, which that was something that the Aquatics Committee and the admin staff was really trying to avoid. They wanted to try and keep everything at one level. So they did have a grade change here, that this was a little bit lower than the rest of the pool deck. And then there was a separate entrance sidewalk that came in for those season at the beginning and at the end when the pool wasn't open. This is a new 3,100 square foot building. This would house all the pool equipment, new restrooms, and concessions. And this is their leisure pool, so there would be a volleyball area, basketball area. Within it, there would be a larger play structure, and then this would all be zero entry on this side. So this shows that entrance that they were proposing. So on their grading plans, you could see the grades, but there was a series of ramps that went down this hillside. Then this was a new 100 square foot entry building. It was just basically a little one-room square that would primarily just be there to enter, for people to enter.
Like a kiosk kind of.
Yeah. And then this shows the competition pool. They have one diving board on their plan, a climbing wall, 2 slides that were there was an open tube and a closed tube, and then this was a different type of, not a high-speed slide. It was a little bit shorter, but it was another type of water slide that they were proposing. So they actually had 3 slides. And then this was a zip line feature. And then they had 6 25-meter lanes for the competition pool here. So this is the existing bathhouse. And the other thing that they proposed was they were reusing the basement of that existing bathhouse for all of these pool staff. So there was a pool staff little break room and lockers and restrooms, and that's where their ADA or their first aid room was also located in the basement of the existing bathhouse. And then the other side of the bathhouse would be basically just demolished for storage. So that's kind of the whole overview of the Capri Pools team.
I guess some of the things that we liked about it had 3 different slides, 3 larger slides.
Then the leisure pool,
The leisure pool
feature.
was large. I mean, it had the nice feature in the zero entry. The splash pad was a very large splash pad. They said it wouldn't be a problem seeing across the pool deck, so if you had a child up in the comp pool and you were down at the splash pad, you'd still be able to see them, even though there was a grade difference there.
That was about it.
When you say over budget, are we talking considerably over?
Could you share the different numbers as you're going through?
Can I? They were about $500,000 over budget.
It's 4.45 something, I think.
Our budget is.
So the budget was around 4.
The budget was
$4
million.
million.
And they were about $500,000 over.
All right, thank you.
That was stressed several times.
Yes.
The next team was the Brockmiller team. Their design was an in-budget design. Their team members consisted of Brockmiller Construction, Insight Design Studio, they were the architect, 21 Design Civil Engineering, SWT, they were the landscape architects, DGG, they were a food service consultant, Councilman and Hunsaker was their aquatic specialist, ECS is another MEP engineering firm, and then Toth was their structural engineer. This is their proposed schedule. They were proposing to start demolition August 27th of this year, and then their substantial completion would be May 17th of 2021. So that was one thing that was kind of a negative to this team, is that they were starting much later than the other teams. So this is an overall view of their design. Again, these are some of the additional drawings and pictures that they sent with their submittal. So there, again, we're reusing the existing parking lot here. They're proposing on putting in a series of retaining walls and, again, ramps that would go along Circle Drive, and that would be the new entrance into the pool. Someone could use those existing stairs that are along the existing bathhouse, or they could take the ADA compliant entrance ramps that ran along Circle Drive. There would be a new building there at the entrance and gates there for entry, so they would take tickets, and then that was also concessions. Then, let me see. Over on the other side, this is a new building also. This would be for all of the pool mechanical equipment. They did have a at-grade delivery, which was nice that they thought about how all of the chemicals and equipment were going to be delivered and maintained after the pool opened. They had about 1,100 square foot splash pad, again fenced off so it could be open when the pool wasn't open in the short season in May and in August, September. Again, 25-meter, 6-lane competition pool, climbing wall, and there's 2 diving boards. They're showing 2 slides, but one is included in their budget, one was not. This is a basketball area. These are cantilevered shade structures. And then this is their zero entry pool. They had a feature there at the zero entry and some jets. And then this is a tanning shelf, so it's a shallow water that you could put lounge chairs in. And then this was a circular shade structure that would be used for party rentals. And then they were proposing to do nothing to the existing bathhouse, but that is where all of your existing restrooms and locker rooms and showers would actually remain, and that would be the use. The only restrooms would be those existing restrooms that were there. And that's that one.
So I guess a few of the things that we liked through this process, we asked the firms, I should say, to address the South Hill, that rocked hill along Circle Drive, and that the previous firm had it was green, it was landscaped of some kind, if I remember correctly. And then this one, they address it by using it as ADA ramps, which is fine. Also on this proposal, one of what we thought was kind of negative features was that they didn't propose to do anything with the existing bathhouse. And so it was just left the way it is. And that was put in the RFP and RFQs that we wanted to try to use it as much as we could in whatever way possible. They had a 1,100-foot splash pad.
And our last team is the Westport team. Again, they presented an in-budget design. Their team members consisted of Westport Pools, Dugan Construction, Horn Architects, and BFA Civil Engineering. Their proposed schedule that they're proposing to start June 1st of this year, and their substantial completion is April 29th of next year. So this is their proposed design. Again, the images on either side are some additional drawings that they presented. That was another thing that we noticed, is that there was just a lot more information. There was a lot of information that they presented as part of their packet. So this was the site rendering they sent us. This shows they're putting a new parking lot over here where near the existing leisure pool is. There's 32 new parking stalls. 4 of them are ADA compliant. And they go right into this new building that would have a main entry and breezeway in the middle, restrooms on one side, and then on the other side there's staff offices. Oh, I just did what you did. Uh-oh, I may have messed up.
Okay, click a few times to get back there.
There we go. I'll get there.
There you
Okay. Go. Sorry about that. Let me go back here. So this shows that new building. It's about 4,200 square feet, and then this is their new splash pad. This would be gated off again, so it could be open when the pool is not open. They were the only ones to present a design where that splash pad season, which is considered like a shoulder season to the pool season, would actually have restrooms available when the splash pad is open, which was a very important detail, I felt, in this whole process, that they thought about that. And then that leads, so right when you come through the breezeway, you'll see the zero entry pool. There's some features there, a large shade structure there, circle umbrella. They have 1 water slide included in the proposal into a plunge pool. They did accommodate for the structure that's there for a second slide. So when the city decides to add that second slide, you're just purchasing the slide itself and not having to put in all the infrastructure. Additional shade structures around the plan. And then this is also a tanning shelf that they were showing, a waterfall feature. They had basketball here, and then benches shown along one side of the pool. And this is a look at the competition pool. Again, 6 lanes, 25-meter, 2 1-meter diving boards, a rock wall. This was Aqua Zip. It was kind of like a little rope swing feature that they proposed. And then in the existing bathhouse, they were renovating the basement enough to basically use it for storage. So they weren't doing a whole lot with that basement or the upper level at all, but they've accommodated with a new building for that. So they're putting the pool equipment and mechanical equipment on the north end of the basement of that existing bathhouse. And this is Circle Drive here, so they're not doing anything with this hill too much, so it'll be pretty similar to the way it is now, is what they're showing.
So, a few things about this. It was one feature that a lot of the committee liked. It was one continuous body of water. It was also the largest body of water from all the firms that submitted. Another big, probably one of the major deciding factors in the whole thing was how they created a new building down on the west end of the site, and you kind of see there's a small ADA ramp there, so that's how you have your access. That requirement's met there, but that's your main entry. So you'd walk through that breezeway right near the zero entry, and you'd see, if the pool was already open, kids playing, or some kind of play features there. We just thought it was they kind of thought outside the box for the other two firms, kind of used the existing site the way it is now. You still park in the same old parking lot. You can't pass the existing bathhouse to get into the new pool and everything like that. Where this design has a whole new entryway. You probably will park in a different parking lot, and then come in, and you're kind of wowed by the zero entry, and you make your way through the pool. Also, I don't know if Andrea pointed out the concession stand. There's a concession stand area there.
Oh, yeah.
Under roof, and then an outdoor seating area there also for concessions.
This is actually, a covered party area, so it'll be outdoor but covered underneath the roof that, again, could be rented or used as overflow seating for the concessions.
And as Andrea said, they haven't really addressed much with the South Hill, but probably can work through that. And then the existing bathhouse they are using for mechanical, half of it where the men's room is now, or the men's locker room would be mechanical pumps and motors, and then the other half of that bottom where the steps are and the women's locker room and bathrooms are, that would be storage, or we could convert it into some other use in the near future.
Andrea?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
The slides that you were talking about, there's only one slide here. You say there because of budget, there's only one slide. There's plans for another one next to it?
So what in their in-budget design of $4 million, it included one slide. But it's set up to where the footings and the structure and the tower are set up to accommodate that second slide. If it fits in the budget now, if something gets reworked, or if you choose to add it in the future, it is set up to accommodate that second slide.
I have two questions. Whether or not you can answer them, I don't know. One is, what would the extra cost be for it? And does the committee come up with an idea of how many people use this thing? And is there use for two of them?
Oh, okay. They did not give us pricing on the slides, so I cannot answer that question. We haven't gotten into that part of yet. And as far as the amount of people that use the slides, I don't know if you guys quantified that.
The thought process, I think the committee was thinking about it, is that we get this slide in, and the infrastructure's there, the brackets and everything are there for a second slide, and then maybe in a year or two after the novelty wears off, then we add another slide, whether we budget for it or however it comes about. I know the slide is in pretty much any pool you go to, especially a large slide like that, and if I remember correctly, it's like 19 feet off the ground. Those slides are usually used quite a bit. So I would think, if it doesn't get put into this proposal in a year or two, I think there would be probably...
Well, that's the question. If it's going to be a problem right off the bat where people will be standing in line, I think it'd be nice to have a second one, so if we could find out what the numbers are to incorporated in with this. Would be
There's a lot of things that we're looking at. As a matter of fact, we've already looked and said, okay, what if we move this over here? What if we adjusted this? For example, another thing, Steve, would be a larger feature at the zero entry portion. We feel that that's probably going to be very important for the kids. So there's that part of that part of it is kind of going on now. We need to go ahead and move forward. Like tonight was, let's have the council make sure that you're on the same team with everybody else and feel that Westport's given us the best bang for our buck. But then we can always go back and take a look at that and try to tweak some of those little things. Because we're already talking about moving a couple of these features around, and one of the comments that we had, and I think Kathy mentioned on it earlier, was the Aquatics Committee wanted dedicated lap lanes over there on the far eastern side of the pool. So we've already looked at moving some of these features and moving this around so that people can go ahead and do that even when the pool is fully operational and open. They don't have to wait for certain parts of it to be closed to be able to utilize that.
Mm-hmm. So as Westport or other people bring comments, suggestions, questions up, then it's been kind of a give and take situation. You need to think about this. Well, if we do this, then either we can have X, Y, and Z, or we can't have X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
So this budget is at $4 million, and that's what the bid came in at.
Mm-hmm.
Right at.
That's exactly right.
The other part of the discussion was too, we talked about moving the diving boards over, eliminating that zip line thing, because that took an extra lifeguard. That was a discussion at the pool aquatics committee.
This feature here.
And then allowing that for lap swimming. The waterfall was an option. And then with the structure where the zero entry is in a second slide, at the way back when we originally talked about, other organizations in town that maybe want to participate in the pool. So if the Rotary or the Lions Club or Optimist, clubs like that, if they want to provide a couple shades or a slide or that kind of structure, it would allow that opportunity for some of those organizations to add to the pool if that became an option. Now with Steve saying if it's better to do it initially, I think in order to stay under budget, that's what it was required to be. So just another option.
Is that 4,200 square foot of the new building, is that all indoor? That 4,200, or is part of that open and outside?
Yes.
So there's I think it was 16-foot wide breezeway, so that's kind of an outdoor space that runs through this middle section here. And then there's an open air area right at this corner that's for seating.
So the roof covers 4,200, but that's not all enclosed.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, so the men's and women's restrooms, and there's changing rooms and some family and gender neutral restrooms on the end here. That's pretty much all that one whole side, and that's kind of enclosed.
And that was another point that I didn't touch on. That was very important. I think Andrea mentioned it to the committee, is to have bathrooms accessible to that splash pad that could be used. When the pool's not open, that splash pad can be used, and so you'd want to have bathrooms, say, in maybe late April and all of May before the pool opens, and then again in late
Especially in August and
September. After the pool closes.
So you don't need a lifeguard at the splash pad then?
No.
Okay.
One other thing, I guess, with the splash pad too that we talked. I mean, just part of the give and take that we're looking at was maybe making the splash pad larger than what they had indicated, and so you take advantage of that. So those are all the moving parts and pieces that we have to figure out and still try to go ahead and stay within budget.
And I guess one other thing that we really concentrated on was the number of lifeguards that it would take to staff the pool, because there's a lot of expense there in personnel and staffing it. And so we're currently at 8 to 9 lifeguards, and so we're trying to get to 7 to 8 lifeguards. And so we've moved some things around, like that aqua zip line that took one guard just to guard that, and so that has left the proposal, and things like that. And so as we shift things around, we kind of try to think about lifeguard and staffing and how that will affect the future budgets.
Just real quick, during the committee meetings or whatever, I've been asked by several people when they have the swim meets, I guess it'd be on the north side there, on the hillside, that people always had to stand up there when they're watching the meets. Is there anything that can be done up there and grading to make it to where they can see a little better?
Well,
we had talked.
My kids attended a swim meet out here last year, and I was there, I think Jeff was there too, or at least passed by. And it is tight down there on our pool deck against the south hill and the north hill with the concession stands sandwiched in there too. This proposal, at least, we got to talk to Westport some more on that, but it gives you more room on each end, the south end and the north end, and then it seems like more room between the pool and the bathhouse too.
Yeah.
Lose some room where the slide is there, but we've already been working with them about opening that up to have some more deck space, so maybe you wouldn't have to go up on the hill this year.
Okay.
'Cause I was up there last year watching too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are looking at that to make sure that there's clear deck space
And
all the way around.
one other thing we're trying to look at too, and we think we might be able to do it, is if we could have a swim meet and still have the leisure pool open at the same time. Where you could park, the swim team people could park in the old parking lot, come down those steps, and we could rope the competition pool off from the rest of the pool and still have the leisure pool for the regular public, and then we could have a swim meet going on. And I think we could still, with the widening of the deck there, we could still accommodate parents around the comp pool and everything like that, so.
Because in the past, we had to shut the whole pool down in order to have a swim meet there. That was like another concern early on too.
Well, I was going to ask, the splash pad here looks noticeably smaller compared to the others, and so and it's the only one without square footage. So I didn't know if you knew how it was drawn.
We had talked about it quite a bit, and it didn't actually give a size in their RFP, which is why I did not list it. And like Darren said, that's actually one thing that we also noticed. It was smaller, so we're looking to expand that area just because of the, especially with it being open, separate from the pool. It's an area that could potentially be a lot larger than they're showing it. So that is something they're working on, and there was not a size given in the RFP.
I do think it'll be important, though, because I feel like our existing pool has a lot of space for parents with small children. And I feel like this one maybe is geared toward kids a little bit older, and I think that splash pad can make up for it if it's large enough.
I think that was also the push for the possibly a larger feature at zero entry for that same reason. That was brought up in actually both committee meetings, is that they felt that there needed to be something more at that zero entry.
Specifically as like a smaller slide.
Yeah, I heard that one specifically too.
So Wayne kind of already touched on it, but that was the recommendation for, was to award it to Westport Pools, and that was by the Aquatic Project Admin, the Aquatic Facility Committee, and also the Parks and Rec Commission. And he talked about a lot of these things already, and if you want to talk about it again.
And you can see kind of some of the deciding factors that admin came up with were the square footage of the pools, and you can see them listed there. And then one body of water. Two of the pools, the Westport Design and Brockmiller, had one body of water, and we liked that. I mean, there's always pluses and negatives, but we liked it because you didn't have to get out of one pool to go to the other pool and run across the deck and have teenagers flying across the deck, running into a mom, and then jumping into another body of water. So with Westport's pool, you can design, you can move pretty freely from one area to the next. Provided a new larger entry building. I touched on that earlier. We kind of thought that was like the wow factor. Like I said, two of the firms did not, I wouldn't say figured it out, but did not present proposals like that. And we like that because you're not walking past the old pool house. You're coming into a new building. You're seeing a new pool right from the get-go. You don't have to go down any hills or 88 ramps or anything like that. Westport's plan starts the soonest. Started June 1st, and then was supposed to be finished by April 30th of 21. And then their plan was the only one that was submitted with a lifeguard plan. And like I said, we're currently at 8 to 9 lifeguards. The new plan's estimating 7 to 8. The other firm said they could come up with a plan and even said they would submit something, but Westport was the only one that did. So.
And that actual 7 to 8 number included a larger feature at the zero entry, which was kind of nice that they thought about that. If we decided to add something there, we still had enough staff to do that. And that is it. I think we kind of had the questions and comments already.
You kind of had a few, yeah. But like I said earlier, I think, where we're at in part of the process is to make sure that the council agrees to move forward with Westport. And then the idea would be is we would bring you a contract at the June 1st meeting.
Wayne, obviously, you're talking June 1st starting. So you guys already have your subs already figured out. Do you know how many locals we're using subcontractors?
I don't know that we know that answer right now. Do we?
We had to get some numbers from somebody.
They do.
They did. They got the number. I know that they did mention some of their subcontractors. Oh, maybe Brian can answer that. Since he's sitting here.
You need to.
Why don't you come on up here, Ryan, and let those guys will clear the way for you.
Hello, I'm Ryan from Westport Pools. Thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. So to answer your question specifically, it's a big part of what we do is local presence on these projects. First, it started with the design team. We have an architect, Steve Struberg, who's on our team, and Rick Rolfing, civil engineer. That's from the consulting side. From the contracting side, we're interested in securing local subs that can do the non-pool specific work. We self-perform the pool specific work. It's very specialized, but when I talk about non-pool specific work, demo. I've reached out to 2 demo guys in town. They know who they are. They've been talked to. They're working through it. Flat work, okay? Vertical construction, roofing. So if there are thoughts and ideas about a local contractor, electrician, there's a lot of electric here. We want that. So yes, we have reached out locally. I will also tell you that our head of construction is a citizen of Washington. So he will be all over that.
Perhaps now, maybe if you could talk a little bit, since Kathy had brought up about the high dive, and even though it was not mentioned, I guess, a lot in our replies back that we had, can you talk about some of the specifics of what's needed for those? Because you guys build them all the time. So
Sure. And we see the request for when I say high dive, I think she's referring to a 3-meter springboard. So it's what we normally think of as a high dive, the things that we went all off as kids and got hurt on, but they're safer today. What needs to happen in this design is the pool will get 1 foot deeper. Okay, it's 12 foot today. There's no code for leisure diving. Diving follows an international diving code. That code would say that it needs to be 12.5 feet. We're 12 today. It's another foot of digging, rock, concrete, rebar, finishes, those things. Is it a big deal? No. Are there costs associated with it? Yes. So there would be some construction costs, and there would be a cost of having a higher dive stand. The diving board's the same. You just need a larger diving stand, 3 meters. So, I've seen a couple of municipalities approach it this way, where they put the 1 meter in, and then later they put the 3 meter in. I've seen that work successfully, and especially if you know it, day one, you already have a thickened slab there. There's a way to address that. Insurance-wise, I can't speak to that. I do know it impacts the insurance portion of it, and everybody's different in that category. So, yeah.
Our swim team always loses the points when we go to competitions because we don't have a dive team. We have both levels, both a 1 meter and a 3 meter, then our swim team could have
Understood.
Competitive dive team as well.
Understood. Yes. So.
Any questions or comments from council members?
As far as the parking goes on the bottom there, can we? Is there a lot of spaces that we can designate for seniors and for handicap? I know there's so many for handicap, but that bottom parking lot would be a good spot for seniors. And then I know the old parking lot, are they still just going to have to walk all the way down to the entryway?
You could do it a couple ways. You could have spillover parking on what is now the long parking lot that leads up to Runsick Field.
Yeah.
I would see that probably would start to fill up quicker than the existing parking lot that we have today. But if you saw that, one of the things we're working on that's kind of separate from the contract for the pool is we're trying to take a look at is to see about putting the sidewalk in, going down from the top all the way back down. And I think you could see it on one of the renderings or whatever. But yes, that would be like a third option for parking on a really busy day.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so you could park in the old parking lot and take the new sidewalk down Circle Drive.
Okay.
Or you could take that other existing parking lot where Steve was saying sometimes you have to stand up there for swim meets.
Yeah.
And it runs almost down, and there might be a connection there.
And
in the
actually, it's
future.
not in this rendering, but they have a new sidewalk connecting here also.
Okay. All right.
As part of it, so. And they included a plan for that other north parking lot. If it was striped, how many cars could potentially fit there? So they looked at kind of the whole campus as far as parking, where people would go.
Yeah, because that'll change the whole aspect of
Yeah,
that
it will.
parking lot. Because then it'll be a main parking lot for the pool, basically.
Yeah, there was, I think they striped it, and I think there was like 124 new spots in the Ronzik lot there.
That'd be more parking for swim meets and everything else too, so.
Andrew, can you find the slide that overlaid this on the current,
Yeah, I have.
or not? Oh, I thought it might have been on there. What I'm speaking about is that this pool sitting on top of the existing pool footprint, and it kind of gives you an idea where the parking lot's at and where the pool, how it sits. It's a lot, I don't know, I thought it was an interesting slide when we looked at it.
But it is a little more compact, and there is budgetary reasons for that.
Yeah, just, I don't know that we mentioned it earlier, but just
Yeah,
for discussion purposes, the proposed pool is 9,000 square feet. The two pools combined that we had were 13,000, is that?
This here just shows where the parking lot is like where the
Yes.
leisure pool is now, and then we would eliminate the circle or in that driveway. The parking lot would actually go down to that, so it'd be one entrance in and out. But other than that, the pool deck is really similar, except for the extra
Rearranged
building. So
differently, yeah.
I just thought the way
And you
that
can
parking
see
lot
some of
laid
the
was
parking, up there that we
yeah, the parking lot starts.
Yeah, so this showed just a potential of if the city decided to stripe it, how many stalls they could get in here. And these are actually showing longer parking stalls for during the fair when there's larger vehicles that are parked, so they took that into consideration. And I believe there's 4 ADA parking stalls proposed here, right in front of the building.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
That's great. It looks good.
And the additional parking would even help for like baseball and games and things like that, improve parking over there.
Does
Yeah,
Westport-
it makes it a lot more efficient.
Westport Pools, do they do valet parking?
Oh, they might.
That's for you,
We know you're big into that.
Yeah.
Looks good.
You guys did a great job.
If you're looking for a motion to move forward, I will make it.
Just one other quick question. Can we possibly, like you were asking, can we possibly look into if it has to be deeper for a taller board? Look into what the extra would be for that at this time. Maybe we don't put the taller board in, or right now, maybe we don't have that in the budget, but maybe see what the extra cost would be to dig that deeper, and to see what the extra cost would be to put the taller.
The platform.
Something we can do. So it's not a dead issue, like the slide.
Well, and I would like, Kathy, was there anything else? I mean, I appreciate you coming. Is there anything else that you haven't heard here that addressed any questions you had?
Not really, just that dive well, if you make it 25 by 25, you got your lap lanes and the dive well, we're close. But I mean, that's more steps, obviously, if you're cool. So, it's just a thought when I was trying to think how you dive and still do swim laps.
I get it.
Question about the second slide. It was mentioned.
Chris, could you come up on the thing? We record it, that way they can
that's
go
fine.
ahead and get your comments.
The question about the second slide, it was mentioned that the second one would be considered once the novelty wore off of the first one. But if the novelty is worn off, why would you want a second one?
It all depends upon what the groups would like to go ahead and do. I think one of the things we asked all the teams was not just for that extra slide, but that there was other little amenities that you could go ahead and put that maybe you don't put in now, but you've got the framework there so that if, like I said, I'll pick on, I'm a Rotarian, maybe the Rotary Club wants to go ahead and put in that zip line and they're willing to go ahead and raise the money for it or something, or there's some other feature that they feel strongly about. Maybe it's the second slide, whatever it may be. We wanted just to have the basics there so that we could add on to it in the future if we wanted. So that's the only way I can answer that.
Appreciate it.
I have one other question that I think I know the answer to, but just to kind of, I've been asked this by citizens, and so I want to address it. So in light of the current situation and sales tax revenue projections, does anything change?
I think right now, the best way to answer that is that if we're cautiously optimistic about the sales tax, I think, one of the things that we have to realize is that in every capital improvement sales tax campaign, you've got a flagship project that gets the voters out there to go ahead and do it. Without a doubt, this was it. So I don't know, even if we did have a situation where we had to make some tough choices, I don't know that you want to make it on this project necessarily.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Solentrop, seconded by Patke, to approve the presentation and the selection of Westport schools. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or your vote, you approve the selection. So thank you. Thank you all very much. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Acceptance of Emerald City sewage.
Good evening, Council.
Yeah, go with one.
I'm excited to follow up a pool discussion with a sewage discussion.
There you go.
But
thinking the same thing.
So we were approached. I was approached approximately 9 months ago from Emerald City subdivision, which is just south of town, towards Pottery and Highway A. They are an outside city limits subdivision that is located in Public Water and Sewer District Number 1, which we currently do have an agreement with to accept their sewage and to provide some reciprocity on water if it ever would need to happen. With doing that, Emerald City and their engineer did drop that, like I said, approximately 9 months ago, to look at different avenues to get the sewage to the city. In doing so, they came back with an option to essentially pump their sewage over Highway A into an existing sewer line that's been extended to essentially the Country Lakes, which is, everyone remembers the old Water Wheel subdivision, which we do have sewage going, sewers going to that subdivision. So really all I'm doing is just asking for your support to accept that. There will be a flow meter installed on the sewer main at an agreed upon interconnection point is what it's called, where we will monitor the flow. They will then pay us based on a set amount per an agreement that was signed in 2007 and then extended in this year, actually. So we actually collect revenue for no infrastructure cost to us, and I would definitely recommend we take advantage of that.
Do they have sewage grinder pumps in now?
They have a treatment plant that will be demolished, and they'll have to place a lift station at that treatment plant and literally pump it over.
So each individual would have to.
Oh, as far as the homes themselves, I don't know. It's a combination, most likely, of grinder pumps and gravity sewage.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of irrelevant to us because they're going to be paying on a per gallon. So if there was some concerns regarding infiltration, things like that, that they still pay for that. So we're not treating stormwater like it would be if we were just going off of flow meters, for example, on the individual homes.
John, who's going to do the tie-in?
I could not tell you. We don't pay for that tie-in; they pay for that tie-in,
Okay.
and we would work with them on inspections, those type of things. But it is the tie-in would be done outside of city limits.
What capacity is our sewer, the wastewater treatment facility running at now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think I have.
When we built it, it was built to have 21,000 people back
I think
then,
so.
and
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look. I'd have to get back with you on that.
Okay, that's fine.
I do have that in the application. I don't think I have access to it here. I'll have to get
We
back
have
with you.
time. I mean,
That's fine.
We have capacity yet.
Yeah. We are not approaching 75% of capacity, so it's less than that.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Solentrup, seconded by Obermark, to accept the Emerald City sewage. So anyway, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the sewage. So anyway, very good, thanks.
I also have one more item that is exciting. It is trash. So I'm the sewage and trash guy tonight.
Good thing we started with the pool.
Exactly. So as you all are aware, Waste Connections did start their delivery of the recycling containers today. We were projecting last week that that was going to start on Wednesday. So tomorrow, I had a staff meeting, all the personnel that answers phones, those type of things, to make sure we just get on the same page as far as getting consistent message out. You'll notice we've been pushing forth a pretty substantial Facebook kind of push, trying to get the information out as fast as we could. We did not give out Waste Connections customer service phone number because they were not ramped up for that yet. What you will see is that blue container with the yellow lid. That is the container. It is bright blue and yellow. You'll get a flyer with that. It'll be just a little easy to read, kind of trifold flyer. If you've seen the flyers the city's put forth in our operations, it is wordy. There's a lot of information in that. We wanted this flyer to be something easy to read, something flashy so people can see. There will be more information coming out as this kind of progresses over the next 2 weeks, so as we work towards June 1st start date. I wanted to show you all the difference, because we did get some calls of that container being so large. I know Councilman Wessels actually brought that up to me in a council meeting. This is being picked up on the first and third pickup days of the month. So your individual pickup day. So if you are a Monday pickup on trash, it'll be the first Monday and the third Monday. If you're a Thursday, it'll be the first Thursday, the third Thursday. I wanted to show you that that is not every other week, okay? Loosely, that's every other week, but that's not really every other week. But I wanted to show you that the green bins are what the citizens currently have. So if you look there, there's 1, 2. If it's every other week or the first and third, which is what it is, you'll see that approaches the size of the blue bin. Important part there is every piece of recycling goes in that blue bin. If you decide to set a cardboard box next to the blue bin, it will not be picked up by the recycling. So cardboard is new in our recycling. That's a huge deal. Cardboard takes up a lot of space. Cardboard does not weigh a lot. So when you have something that takes up a lot of space at your landfill that does not weigh much, you are not producing much revenue off of that cardboard. The idea is it can be recycled, so there's a green concept to it. If you can get that cardboard going someplace else out of the city, that makes that landfill last longer, which means that your trash rates can remain lower over a longer period of time. That's why it was such a big deal to get the cardboard going in that blue bin. Does that make sense? So we're going to arm every single one of our staff members with that kind of concept. We anticipate a handful of individuals that do not want that recycling container. We get that. We are fully prepared for that. The idea was get it out on the streets, generate the press, generate the concerns, so we can then get into the conversation to educate each individual person and make sure this gets off right. That was the idea. So, for example, my 91-year-old great aunt basically wrote me out of the will because I gave her that blue card. So be it. She's getting it. We have a plan to collect them. We will round them back up. Just give me some time to kind of get this going. You think I'm kidding? So we have some time here. If we missed you, I know we had a councilman on the east end of town that did not get his today. We did not look at his name. He didn't get it. Call me. Call the customer service number. We'll put the stuff out there. You will get one if you're residential. We've had some concerns on, is this going to be an option for commercial? The city does not get in commercial trash or recycling collection. However, you can call Waste Connections, and I'm sure they will be happy to work out a contract with you on commercial collection. The last thing I have, the recycling center. The recycling center, I've heard, is used the word, the adjective is it's been a mess. Towards the end of last fall, the roof blew off the recycling center. It was going to be a $20,000 fix. We chose not to replace that roof, knowing that this was coming down coming down the pike. So we chose not to replace the roof for that reason, because I didn't want to spend the money on it and then have to come in and say it's irrelevant. So that's why it did not get fixed. We are working on getting single stream dumpsters at that location. So June 1st, when this goes live, there might be a little lag, but we're going to get 3 to 4 single stream dumpsters. Keep in mind, that center then would serve people outside of city limits more probably than it would inside. There is a small business component to that we do recognize, but that is an additional cost, approximately $4,000 to $5,000 a year, that is not in our contract. Okay? But the recycling center right now is to be operational essentially as it was before. If that recycling center becomes a problem and the recycling is not truly recycling and people are, dumping mattresses and things in those bins, they will be removed or have the option to be removed. So just keep in mind, we're going to monitor these things pretty close. There's a frequently asked FAQ, frequently asked questions, that we put up. It's a 2-page document. I would encourage everyone to read that, become familiar with it. It does answer a lot of your questions. And as always, reach out to me and we'll get you the answers.
John, are we still tentatively thinking about big trash?
Yeah, thank you.
Mid to late June, 1st of July?
That's perfect. So the April big trash was suspended due to COVID. Obviously, we did not plan on doing that. It's just the way it kind of shook out. We are targeting a mid to late June collection. That'll be done with city staff. That'll be the last one we do. I will have that at your June 1st council meeting. I did not want to get that information out and convolute the message, because this is the most important thing right now. So just hang with me on that. There's a plan, and it'll be coming pretty quick.
Just making sure that it's still in the
Yeah,
works.
there will be 2 big trash by Waste Connections that'll be established just like they always were. But you also have an option to do an on-call. So, for example, if your favorite recliner, back breaks off of it, you can call Waste Connections. They will come to your resident, you have to prepay them a set amount, but then they will come to your residence and pick that up on call. The city does not get involved in that transaction. Okay? Trash does not change. Keep saying that. Trash does not, you will not get a trash container. It will not change. So if you have your new toter trash cans, good for you, good investment, you could still use it. If you have your old 1970s steel container, you love that thing, you can still use it. That's perfectly fine. Nothing changes on trash. You will, however, be given an option. If you want to rent a trash container from Waste Connections, you can do that, but you have to contact them to set that up. Again, that's not city interaction. Does that make sense?
John, what size is this container?
That's a 64-gallon.
Would that container there be okay for somebody like Mark Wessels to bring down his driveway?
I have to confess, I complained about the size. My wife likes it. She says if this quarantine lasts much longer, she's going to stuff me in there and roll me down.
Well, I'm one for 2, I guess. But the quick thing to point out there and why I wanted to set them side by side is obviously there's 2 weeks there. That's why it's like that. Cardboard goes in. But the base on that is no different than the green ones. I know it looks bigger. Well, it is bigger. But the base itself is fairly similar. We fully recognize that there are people who are not going to want that blue container. That's why the recycling center is still going to remain open. But currently there is no option for a smaller container. We can always look at trying to do something different, but right now there is not one.
It's lovely.
Perfect. We'll put a red bow on yours after Steve gets his.
Mark doesn't think he can fill that in 2 weeks with beer cans.
That's a challenge, I think. That's all I have.
What happens with everything at the recycling center? Business as usual, getting rid of what's there yet?
Yeah, so we're currently bailing right now, trying to unload everything. Again, the recycling market's tough for our supply chain. If there is we're going to try to get rid of everything as quickly as possible. A, that frees up a building. B, it needs to be cleaned up. If we cannot, we will work with Waste Connections on taking it. So there's a plan for that as well. Recycling center will be, like I said, operate as is. Compost center will operate as is. We're looking at ways to repurpose the building. One would, we'll store our asphalt cold patch underneath of it. Others, maybe we'll store our salt truck, our salt bins underneath the roof. So there's ways that we can repurpose that building. Maybe parks, we can work with them. that building will be utilized.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thanks, John.
Ordinances, resolutions. An ordinance amending the 2020 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilmember Holtmeyer.
So this is an amendment and then final pay request for Wash Engineering. This is to finally wrap up the Shoals Industrial Park project with Pangea, with that project being delayed over a year and Wash Engineering having to continue to monitor that site and notice Pangea when they were out of compliance. That's why there's an additional cost.
Any comments or questions?
An ordinance amending the 2020 budget by the City of Washington, Missouri. Hatke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Obermark?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer line easement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Cowboy Holdings, LLC.
Heidrich.
Introduced by Councilmember Heidrich.
Okay, this is kind of a cleanup. The next three items, 7B, 7C, and 7D. A resident on 3rd Street replaced their driveway approximately 2 months ago, and when they did so, they uncovered a clay sewer line that served multiple buildings within 3rd and Jefferson Street kind of areas. I think there was 4 owners actually that was served by. So that's a shared lateral situation, which is not uncommon, old part of town. In doing so, he called me. I went down there and took a look at it. It had different holes, different stress cracks, those type of things, which infiltration in the sewer system. So we wanted to replace that while the hole was actually opened up. In doing so, we wanted to clean that up and take it from a shared lateral situation that really has some questions regarding who actually owns it. Because if I have a lateral that is on your property, who takes care of the maintenance? It just causes all kinds of issues. So we did get the sewer replaced. It was done. It was inspected by us. And I did work out 3 different easements with the 3 property owners who were served by said sewer. And then we would take that sewer line over for maintenance, which is what we would do if the sewer was built today new. So it's just a cleanup item.
Any comments or questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer line easement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Cowboy Holdings, LLC. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Obermark?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer line easement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and David C. Kuschel.
Hatke.
Introduced by Councilmember Atke. Same thing?
Yep, same situation as the previous ordinance. So it's just one of the property owners.
Okay.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer line easement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and David C. Kuschel. Hatke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Obermark?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer line easement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and David and Sherry Jeanette.
Heidrich.
Introduced by Councilmember Heidrich.
Same as before.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer line easement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and David and Sherry Jeanette. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Obermark?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance vacating a portion of Front Street right-of-way and retaining a public utility easement from Lafayette Street to Cedar Street in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilmember Holtmeyer.
I'll go ahead and start with this. We've looked at Front Street, this portion or the stretch of Front Street. We've had a lot of improvements, obviously, down there along in front of those buildings. And over the years, we've tried to deal with some of the improvements that get into the right-of-way by proposing an encroachment agreement in those areas. But after looking at this, I talked with John and staff, and we just looked at the idea of what if we came up with some type of all the way from Lafayette down to Cedar to try to cover this area. And then you also, what was triggered too, is OCs had been under, as you've seen down there, remodeling during this time frame, and they would also like to go ahead and do some additional seating out front. And that's what's covered, and there was, in addition to that, what they wanted. The rest of these, though, this takes care of, for example, John G's, you had an encroachment agreement that we had down there that they could come out into the right-of-way. You also have a lot of stuff that was in front of the landing there, including the famous anchor down there, et cetera. All of those are on city right-of-way. Sometimes they had encroachment agreements, sometimes they didn't. So what you have with these exhibits are all the exhibits running from Lafayette Street down to Cedar Street that reflect the right-of-way that we would go ahead and vacate, but we would still go ahead and maintain a utility easement so that in case we would need utilities, we could still have those areas. And it's fine if they have those types of, what it would prohibit them from is they wouldn't be able to go ahead and build their building further out front, et cetera. They'd have to abide by that easement, but those smaller items, et cetera, that you see, the tables that sit down there in front of like the taco place, for example, that's another example of one. So this kind of cleans this up, and we would like to go ahead and vacate that, but still yet keep the utility easement. And then 7F is the additional agreement that we would have to allow them to encroach, and you can see by the exhibit on that that it goes out a little bit further. Also, this also takes us, portions of all those improvements in front of that building would then become their responsibility for improvement.
Darren, it also enables those business owners to have landscaping in the front, and it aesthetically looks better on Front Street, because as a city, we just can't keep up with what those businesses want to do. So, I mean, I know the landing's had it for a long time.
Right.
And then the new bar, was formerly the OC, is kind of looking at the same thing. So, aesthetically, I think it's an upgrade also.
Will we still be able to have our utilities buried through that?
Yes. I don't even know that we'll need to utilize that easement. I think we would still probably have it out in the right-of-way where that's planned to go.
Street.
So. But this keeps that option open.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
An ordinance vacating a portion of Front Street right-of-way and retaining a public utility easement from Lafayette Street to Cedar Street in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrop?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Obermark?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an encroachment license by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Genis Properties, LLC.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilmember Holtmeyer. This is the Otis Campbell piece
Correct.
that we had talked about just a little bit earlier. So, any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an encroachment license by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Genis Properties, LLC. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrop?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Obermark?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Mayor's report.
Don't really have anything too big to say other than the fact that even when you see these ordinances coming through here, the cleanup and stuff like that, certainly beyond everyone focusing on the virus that's been going around, there's been a lot of work getting done here. A lot of things are being taken care of and handled, so we should all be very thankful and grateful for our entire team at the city who's been on it this entire time and making sure that everything's moving forward. So we haven't lost a beat, really. So thank you.
City Administrator's report.
I just like to go ahead and talk a little bit about operations as we kind of move forward. I think we had targeted the restrictions and operations of what we've been, the new normal or whatever that tends to be. kind of expires June 1st, and just a couple items that we talked about today. Mark is here, Mark Scornia is here, our emergency management director, and the mayor and I discussed. We're looking at, for starters, as you know, the library opened up on a partial basis, Monday through Thursday, with limited hours and a limit of 10 patrons at one time. I think, according to Nelson, they've really only, that first day, they only had a couple of times when we had more than 10 people wanting to get in at the same time. So they continue the curbside pickup, et cetera. But what we'd like to do, I think he had a meeting tonight with the library board of directors, and I think they were going to shed some light with regards to trying to open up a little bit further, possibly after June the 1st. We would keep the same amount of patrons that could go ahead and be in the building at the time, but just extend the hours again. And so we're going to try to work towards that for that opening, and we'll keep you in the loop, obviously, as we change those hours and make those changes. With that, we would be hiring back the part-timers that we have, that we had to lay off when this started. Those are the shelvers, et cetera. So if we have the extended hours, we're going to need to go ahead and bring them back. But again, I'll keep you in tune with that. We also discussed a little bit about partially opening up City Hall after June the 1st. To at least maybe 4 hours a day, et cetera, so that patrons that wanted to come in and still, for lack of ease, if it worked out easier for them to be able to come in, pick up their building permits, go ahead and pay utility payments. We would still want everybody to utilize the options that we've had for the last couple of months. We've got the payment drop box over here in the library parking lot that needs to be go ahead and continued. Hopefully, we picked up some more online customers with utility bill paying, during this time or whatever, which has always been kind of a goal. But we're always looking for ways that what we can do is to, if we can lessen that interaction, that face-to-face interaction during this time as we keep moving forward, we are trying to go ahead and do that, but on the same time try to open up some things. We've talked about different scheduling with our employees and possibly keeping the schedules in the sense of keeping our teams tight so that they're not acting within the others. John has done, for example, I think has said it over and over to you about our public works crews. We've got 4 separate crews, but what we may look at doing is go back to a schedule of maybe the 40-hour regular work week or 410s or something like that. I'm going to leave that up to him to go ahead and do that. But as the mayor said, we continue to go ahead and provide the services. We do not plan on changing that whatsoever. Everything keeps moving forward, but try to go ahead at the same time, come up with a new game plan after June 1st. But I will send you an email with all those details. But I wanted to share that with you tonight.
Any questions?
Council comments.
I'd like to say thank you to Wayne, Greg, Andrea, all of the crew. I mean, the whole pool concept back from, all the meetings for the last couple of years, actually. It was a great presentation. I hope, like Mark asked, stay local on contracts. Brian, thanks for being here. It's a big deal. It's a long time coming, and I think we're on the right path, obviously. I think it's going to be a great thing. So thank you for all that, no doubt. And then for Kathy, your concerns also, we get those daily, at least I do. People asking for, why didn't we do this? Are you sure it's big enough? Or sure it's not right? We want to accommodate everything, but also in the realm that what's possible, I guess, is what it amounts to. And I wholeheartedly think it's going to be a great thing come in the next summer. So, again, thank you. And those concerns are definitely being kept. So thanks for that. And then I just have one small item for an executive session, if we possibly could. Thank you.
Anyone else?
City Attorney's Report. Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrop?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Obermark?
Yes.
Okay. We'll be going into